Rough morning here at the KCMO Talk Radio studios. Sheesh. John's getting sick on us. Mark blew out a tire this morning, and the Chiefs, of course, lost to the Eagles last night, 21-17. It's rough sledding around these parts, Mark.
Yeah, the Chiefs blew that one, man.
Oh, my
10-point lead at
goodness. Oh, gosh. Not a single point scored in the second half. They are dead last in the league with 5.5 points scored per game in the second half. Held scoreless again last night in the second half after putting up 17 points in the first half. 17-7 at halftime. I'm sitting out there at Arrowhead. The place is cooking. Everyone's fired up. And then the second half happened. And the juice came completely out of that building. And I've also decided to offer this up to Patrick Mahomes. I haven't played in a while, but I will step on that field if he needs a wide receiver. If he needs somebody with good hands, well, I'm his guy. All right? I'm catching Joe Biden's fumbles every single day on this show. Same for local politicians. So my attitude is, can't be much tougher than that. Patrick Mahomes puts it in the breadbasket of Marquez Valdes-Scantling for the go-ahead touchdown in the last couple of minutes. And the guy just drops the ball. I mean, Mark, you have the same initials as Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and I know Ray Stevens has been calling you MVS. I don't want to hear that nickname the rest of the week. All right? We on the same page? Tell that to Ray.
I'm the true MVS in Kansas City. I'll just say that. I was here before him, but I'll stop calling myself that.
You're the OG MVS. That's fine. If you want to be the OG MVS, I can accept that, because this MVS, this football MVS, what's he got now? 6 drops in the year? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's regressed.
Big time.
Bigly.
Bigly, as some might say.
Such a nice man.
Meantime, the Chiefs lead the league with 26 dropped passes. I saw now Patrick Mahomes, 21% of his incompletions this season have been on drops. Now, I know it was wet last night. I know, I was there. It was wet. It was not pleasant. It was windy. But here's the difference in a game like that last night. Devontae Smith on a beautiful pass from Jalen Hurts down the right sideline nearly scores a touchdown. And then, of course, the very next play, they do the little tush push in for the go-ahead score. Meantime, on the other end, Patrick Mahomes responds with a beautiful play. I mean, the guy's throwing into the wind, in the rain, and he puts it right on the hands of Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and he drops it in the end zone. There's nothing more you can ask for. If you're Patrick Mahomes, if you're the Chiefs, now, of course, after the game, Mahomes gets asked about that very play, and here's what the Chiefs quarterback had to say.
Hey, Patrick, on that last throw to Marquez Valdes-Scantling, how much regret do you have with the fact that it didn't work out?
Well, let me just stop right there. That's a bad way to frame the question. How much regret do you have that it didn't work out? I mean, there's a million ways to frame that question. What did you and MVS talk about after the play? What did he have to say for himself? Anything you saw you could have done differently? Do you have regret? I mean, gosh dang, you put the ball right in the guy's hands 50 yards down the field in the rain and the wind. Any regret? I mean, there's no way to frame the question. But anyway, Mahomes, being the ultimate pro, said this.
You had to play, you had to look, you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I have no regret. I mean, they triple-teamed Travis, so I went to the guy that won downfield, and Marquez won. Just didn't come away with the ball. I mean, I could probably throw a little bit shorter. He was that open. So, you just got to continue to try to get better and better. Defense is keeping us in games, and if we can find a way to just get a little bit better as an offense, we're going to win a lot of these games.
Well, he's right about that part, But how about Mahomes, the consummate professional? Yeah, I could have thrown it a little shorter. Dude, you put it on a dime from 50 yards down the field. 10 o'clock at night, rain all day, windy. It was windy out there. I don't know if that came across on TV, but it was windy. It was unpleasant. And this guy puts it right in the breadbasket of supposedly one of his top wide receivers. And he just dropped it. It's not even like it went through his hands because it was wet out. He just dropped it, and then he fell over himself to boot. Gosh, I mean, you got this guy here, and meaning Mahomes, and he is a pro's pro. He's never going to roll his guys under the bus. That's just not who he is. But once in a while, you're like, no, it's okay. Roll him under the bus, Patrick. Roll him right under, brother. I mean, sheesh. But, of course, that's not the way it went down. Now, I'm not going to overreact to it because the Chiefs are 7-3, and let's be honest. You make that catch. Of course, there were a couple other mistakes in the red zone. Travis Kelce had a fumble in the red zone, and then Patrick Mahomes threw an interception in the first half in the red zone. So the Chiefs are not good enough when it comes to their wide receiver position to have those three things happen against the best team in the NFC and win. Interception in the end zone, red zone fumble by Kelce, and drop in the game-winning touchdown. Those three things happen, you're not going to win. But if you want to find the positives, there's plenty of positives to find here. The defense holding the Eagles to 21 points remains incredibly impressive. You are a player or two away from winning that game against, the team you beat in the Super Bowl last year. I don't look at this game and say, oh, boy, oh, gosh, Chiefs, they're toast. But here's what this does mean. The Chiefs obviously have thrived the last 5 years playing their playoff games at home. They've hosted 5 straight AFC championship games. And if they're not going to get the number 1 seed, which right now they would not be the 1 seed, that would be the Ravens, well, that's a different beast. Going on the road in the playoffs is much different than sleeping in your own bed and playing in front of your home crowd, Mark. And we haven't seen that in a long time, but you and I both know that's a big reason for this team's success the last few years.
Patrick Mahomes has never played a road game in his NFL career.
In the playoffs.
In the playoffs.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some people on Twitter. Yeah, Lamar Jackson has more road playoff wins. Yeah, Mahomes has never played one in his life. And it's not that he can't win them, but you really do have an advantage when you're playing at home. Not just because of the comfort level, but with this crowd and this stadium and this fan base, I mean, that is worth 2 to 3 points when it comes to Vegas spreads and things like that, having that home field advantage, which they have had. And right now, the Chiefs are sitting at 7-3. And by the way, they're one of 4 teams that are 7-3 in the AFC. You have the Browns, the Jaguars, the Chiefs, and the Dolphins all 7-3, and the Ravens are 8-3. So suddenly you look at this thing and you say to yourself, yes, they can still very much be the number 1 seed in the AFC, but at the same time, they could also be the 5 seed, right? Like, you don't know. We don't know. So it's going to be a very interesting next few weeks here for the Chiefs. They've got a short week, of course, go to the Raiders, who are playing a little bit better here since firing Josh McDaniel. Then go to the Packers. Then they're home for the Bills, at the Patriots, versus the Raiders, and then Bengals and Chargers. And with the Bengals being out Joe Burrow, I mean, there's no reason they shouldn't finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, 6-1. This should be a 6-1 final stretch. You like that, Mark, down the home stretch here?
Yeah, I agree with that. And the Ravens haven't had their bye yet. So once that happens, I think the Chiefs would take over the 1 seed again if they both went out. So that's also positive for the Chiefs.
That's a good point because 2 of the Chiefs' losses are to NFC teams.
Yep.
So actually, it's not a bad loss to lose to an NFC team. So very good point there, Mark. 913-408-7957 as we get it rolling on a Tuesday morning on KCMO. Well, it's 2 days away till Thanksgiving. Oh!
Thanksgiving. Boy, I love Thanksgiving.
That's right, Rex. 48-hour countdown for the big fella, the former KCMO health director. And we've got the numbers on how much Thanksgiving is going to cost you this year, courtesy of Bidenomics.
Come on, man.
We'll get to it next on KCMO Talk Radio, now on your FM dial at 95.7. Thanksgiving's coming up in 48 hours. Can you believe it? I know some of you are dreading it. Some of you are loving it. It just depends on what your personal preference is based on, how crazy your Uncle Bob's going to be this year. Now, I've seen a lot of good memes floating around there, by the way, of people saying, my wife tells me not to talk politics at Thanksgiving. And then it's like after 2 frescas, and then it's like Alex Jones memes.
I'm getting pissed now.
Of him just like screaming and going wild. It's pretty funny stuff. So avoid politics at Thanksgiving this year. Do yourself a favor. Notice how I didn't say do the uncle or aunt you can't stand a favor. Do yourself a favor. It's not worth it. I promise you, you're not changing anybody's minds about their politics over a turkey. You're not doing it. It's not happening. So don't waste your time. I don't care which side you're on. It doesn't matter. Now, that being said, one thing we can all agree on are the facts, and that is that it is going to be a much more expensive Thanksgiving this year when you compare it to 2019. The price of a traditional Thanksgiving meal has surged by 25%. And that's a fact, Jack.
Come on, man.
This, according to the American Farm Bureau's annual survey, making this the second most expensive Thanksgiving in the survey's 38-year history. The most expensive was last year, so it's come down a little bit since last year, but it is far higher than it was just a couple of years ago. In 2020, so the numbers really from 2011 to 2020, the average cost of a Thanksgiving meal was right around $45 to $48. And then 2021 happened. Inflation started. It jumped to about $52, $53. Then it spiked last year to about $64, and now it's down to $61.17, the average cost of a Thanksgiving meal. A big part of that is the turkey. Since 2019, the cost of a 16-pound turkey has risen 31.5%. And we hear more and more from farmers, especially small farmers, who are just struggling mightily. And I know we have many in this audience who just can't catch a break when it comes to the price of everything from the feed to all the items that you use to keep that farm going. You are struggling to not just stay ahead, get ahead in many ways. So this cost of the turkey, a 16-pound turkey, has gone up 31.5%, while other staples also have skyrocketed in price. Rolls are up 54%, stuffing's up 41%, potatoes are up 30%. And there's no truth to the rumor that these have all gone up because Kansas City former health director Rex Archer is buying them all up.
Thanksgiving. Boy, I love Thanksgiving.
I love Thanksgiving, said the former Kansas City health director. No, that's not why the prices have gone up. Other items, cranberries, canned pumpkin, and potatoes have seen double-digit percentage increases over the past year. The price of ham is near an all-time high. So this is obviously a terrible sign, but don't worry. Joe's telling you the economy is getting better. Karine Jean-Pierre is telling you the economy's getting better. Heck, Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, did a sit-down with CNBC yesterday, and she is trying to convince you that the economy is doing much better. Take a listen to Janet Yellen yesterday on CNBC talking about all the great work that Joe Biden's doing as president to keep prices under control.
I don't think we need to have offsets for what is an emergency, a national security situation, but we certainly do need a fiscally responsible and sustainable path for spending and taxation in our economy. President Biden has signed bills that result in $1 trillion of deficit reduction over the next 10 years. We've had responsible investments in the U.S. economy that will have a payoff, and we've provided additional money to the Internal Revenue Service, which will have an enormous payoff in closing the $7 trillion tax gap that we have in the United States. We're simply not collecting the taxes that people owe, and this will have a huge payoff as well. And President Biden's last budget proposed an additional $2.5 trillion of deficit reduction while continuing to invest in the economy.
Stop, Janet Yellen. Oh,
I'm getting pissed now.
Yeah. That's Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, talking about how Biden has signed bills that will reduce the deficit by $1 trillion over the next 10 years. By the way, do the math on that an average of $1 trillion cut over the next 10 years. What's that, $100 billion a year, give or take? We're in $33 trillion in debt. And she's bragging about a $1 trillion cut over a 10-year period that would supposedly reduce deficits by an additional $2.5 trillion, while, as she puts it, investing in the economy. Hey, I don't want the government to be investing in the economy anymore. I don't. You guys did that the last 3 years. And by the way, that's both parties, including 2020 during COVID. You guys invested in the economy. And I put up air quotes when I say invested, because there's no such thing as the government investing in the economy. We don't want you investing in the economy. You've done too much of that. And it's caused an incredible amount of pain for the American consumer over the last 3 years. And now we're seeing it on Thanksgiving dinner, which is going to be the second highest price Thanksgiving of all time, trailing only last year. So, you know, I'm sure there's going to be some big statement from Karine talking about how great things are. And look, Thanksgiving's down from last year. Yeah, and it's up 25% from 2019. You heard that right. 25%. There is certainly one big old turkey this Thanksgiving, and it's not the one on your plate, all right?
He's a cuckoo bird. Boom, boom, boom.
It's not the one on your plate. That one's overpriced. The big bird, the real turkey, well, time for him to find the door. That's for darn sure. 913-408-7957 on the text line. Pete, I'm talking politics at Thanksgiving. This way my Christmas list will be short this year to save some money. That's a great idea. 0852. That's a great idea. You are ahead of the curve. Outstanding plan. News coming up in 2 minutes, and then a moment that's going to make you laugh on KCMO. Don't you love those moments in politics or news when somebody rolls something out and they want you to think it's organic, and then somebody else blows up their spot? Well, that's what happened yesterday to Nikki Haley, who is actually gaining ground in the presidential primary. Now, it's still, of course, Donald Trump by a mile, but Nikki Haley's been the one who's gotten a little momentum here in the last few months. And it's, you know, it's been mildly interesting to see. She's not going to be the nominee, but it's been interesting to watch. So yesterday, she's doing an event, and she picks on a child for a question. And, of course, the kid has a Nikki Haley hat on. And this is just classic kid right here. Take a listen to this exchange.
I love your hat.
Thank you. Thank you. One of your guys gave it to me for free.
Oh, snap. Yeah, one of your guys gave it to me. Nikki Haley says it like, hey, boy, look at you at a Nikki Haley event as a young person with a Nikki Haley hat on. What do you think? That kid just bought a hat before the rally? I'm pretty sure that's not how it worked.
I'm not worth your Red Lobster money?
No. Oh, Jesus, no. No, Nikki Haley's hat, you know, the person who's likely to finish in third place in the 2024 presidential primaries with 12 to 15%, you don't have kids running out buying hats for Nikki Haley. Sorry to break it to you, Nikki, but that's not how it goes. So instead, Nikki Haley gets owned by this kid in entertaining fashion when she goes, oh, wow, I love your hat. And then the kid goes, yeah, got it for free from someone in your staff. Oh, whoops. Wasn't supposed to say the quiet part out loud. And with Thanksgiving around the corner, kind of reminds me of, like, you know, when you're going out before you go see family and you say to your kids, hey, don't mention to Uncle Bob that he's gained 25 pounds. I know we call him fat at home all the time, but don't call him fat at Thanksgiving. You know, you kind of give all like the disclaimers to your kids, and then you hope they hear about half of them. Your girls are older, Mark, so I'm sure that you've kind of had these conversations throughout your life where you got to make sure that they don't say certain things, and inevitably they end up saying something that you tell them not to say.
Oh, yeah. It happened yesterday at the doctor's office. I'm like, hey, shh, don't say that.
Don't say
did
that.
they? And then they start yelling it louder.
Oh, jeez. Did they really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it happens even later in life.
It's not going anywhere is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, because we're kind of at that place right now with Claire where it's like, hey, don't mention this, don't mention that. Keep this quiet, keep that quiet. Don't repeat that. Don't repeat this. Well, I'm sure that kid was told, hey, when Nikki congratulates you or compliments your hat, just say, thanks. But, kids say the darndest things.
I love your hat. Thank you. Thank you. One of your guys gave it to me for free.
Couldn't even just say, I got it from one of your guys. One of your guys begged me to take it off his hands. He's like, no, please take the hat. Oh, I don't need a hat. Just take the hat. Take the hat. Take it. Oh, gee. So we sit here in this primary, by the way, and I am more convinced than ever that Joe Biden is not going to be the nominee. Bill O'Reilly's been saying this on this show for months, and I'm starting to believe that he's right. I wasn't buying it, but with all these polls coming out, you had the NBC News poll come out on Sunday we talked about yesterday that showed Donald Trump beating Joe Biden. Here's what I think they're waiting on. Part of me believes that they are waiting on Donald Trump to solidify the nomination. Because right now, multiple polls from multiple organizations are showing Donald Trump beating Joe Biden in a head-to-head. And as I've said for a long time, it's entirely likely that Donald Trump can only beat Joe Biden, but that Joe Biden can only beat Donald Trump. So if they're waiting potentially for Trump to lock it up, and then they pull the old switcheroo. Now, they can't wait too long. You can't take this thing to the convention. But Democrats are not stupid. They're not. I know some of you want to think that they are. They know exactly what they're doing. And nobody in their right mind can look at the landscape right now and say that it makes a lot of sense for Joe Biden to run for re-election. The guy turned 81 years old yesterday. Jimmy Carter, God bless him, of course, lost his wife over the weekend. She was 96. Jimmy's 99. And Jimmy hasn't been in office in 45 years. Joe's he's 81. That means that come January of 2029, if he were to hang on that long, right, if he wins re-election, guy's going to be 87. Think about that. Or no, 86 technically. He'd be 86 as he's leaving office, going on 87, but 86 going on 87. Nobody in their right mind can think that that is a good situation for Joe Biden or for the country or for the Democratic Party, of course. They're struggling with young voters. We had the NBC poll that came out over the weekend. Biden won young voters, 18 to 34-year-olds, by 26 points. A new NBC News poll came out, shows he's trailing Trump by 4. That's insane. I'm not sure I necessarily believe that. But either way, the alarm bells are going off. But I think they're just waiting. But I've got to give it to Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, because yesterday on Joe Biden's birthday, she's able to say this with a straight face.
I would put the president's stamina, president's wisdom, ability to get this done on behalf of the American people against anyone on any day of the week.
What? At first I thought she was going to say, I would put his stamina, I'd put his intellect up against any ferret on the planet. But no, she actually said human being. That's insane. But I give her credit for saying it with a straight face. The fact that Karine Jean-Pierre can make statements like that with a straight face, to me, means she's underpaid, believe it or not. I mean, that is a very difficult thing to do, and it's very impressive to make a comment like that and say it with a straight face. So good on you, Karine. I mean, it's kind of like acting class at this point. You just have to be able to deliver the line and do it in a convincing fashion. And she has me convinced that she actually believes that when she says it.
I would put the president's stamina, president's wisdom, ability to get this done on behalf of the American people against anyone on any day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, that's very impressive to say it with a straight face. Karine Jean-Pierre, I gained a lot of respect for you yesterday on Joe Biden's 81st birthday. that she can deliver that to the American people and not laugh and not cry and not keel over and not get choked up on her words. She can just say it. So good on you, Karine. I'm impressed. I didn't think anybody could make a comment like that and not at least have a little bit of a smirk on their face. But she was able to pull it off. So God bless her. Coming up on KCMO, Kendall Gammon's going to be here just after 7 o'clock. Talk about the game last night. I do have Generald Wilson's national anthem. I was there. I recorded it. I put it up on Twitter and Facebook so you can see it there. And we will play that as well at 7:20 this morning. It was absolutely fantastic. And Mark Alford is going to be here in the studio at 8 o'clock. So we've got a busy morning ahead on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM, 913-408-7957. And yesterday I sent an email to my insurance guy because the rates just keep going up. And he told me something that he's seen in the last few months that he has not seen in 12 years of doing this. And it might be impacting your rates as well. I'll tell you what that is next on 95.7 FM KCMO. Got to catch the ball, MVS. No, not you, Mark Van Sickle. Marquez Valdes-Scantling needs to catch the ball. And while Mark is the OG MVS, I hope that Ray Stevens takes a break from calling you MVS because I just don't want to hear that nickname, that acronym, for at least 24 hours. So if you can pass that on to Ray at 10 o'clock, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll have to give him the heads up on that.
Please do. Oh, gosh, that was painful last night. I didn't think one of the highlights. I mean, I knew the national anthem was going to be a highlight because our buddy, Generald Wilson, was going to be singing the national anthem last night. He was on the show yesterday, and he always does a great job. He sang it at the AFC Championship game against the Bengals back in January. The first time I saw him live was for the Chiefs-Titans AFC Championship game back in 2020 for the 2019 season. And I'm like, who is this guy? My goodness, he's a stud. And every time I see him, I've seen him now. I guess he did the Chargers home opener last year, too. Guy's just money. I mean, he's so damn impressive. And last night, he just absolutely crushed it. So I recorded about 50-some-odd seconds of it here. And it's up on my Twitter page at Pete Mundo. It's also on my Instagram page. You can find it there at Pete Mundo and on the Facebook page. So any of those places you can find the video, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. But here it is, our man, Generald Wilson, singing the national anthem last night before the game. Just a thing of beauty. Generald Wilson knocking it out of the park last night. I could listen to that guy sing the national anthem all day. Couldn't you? He is that good. I mean, Mark's in there singing along with Generald. I can see it in there.
Oh,
Mark.
yeah. I love singing along with him. Everybody at Arrowhead sounded like they did, too.
That's exactly right. And part of what he said yesterday on the show was that as divisive as things are right now, as he thinks about it in his mind, he's kind of tricking us all into coming together for 90 seconds for his national anthem. I think it's a great way to look at it. Like, there's a lot that we don't agree on, but he views himself as uniting 80,000 people last night, many of whom disagree in some way, shape, or form on, the direction of the country, the way of the world, whatever it might be. But for that minute and a half, he brings people together. And by the way, the Chiefs, they know they've got a gem in Generald Wilson. He told us yesterday that the Chiefs called him up the day after the schedule came out, back in May, and booked him for that game. So I got to imagine if they get home playoff games, he's going to be back in the saddle. Now, meantime, I just stumbled upon this morning. I think it just came out here. And, I mean, it's got to be a several thousand-word piece in the Wall Street Journal. It's the cover of the latest Wall Street Journal magazine. And it dropped, looks like last night. Travis Kelce is on the cover of the Wall Street Journal magazine. And I'm going through this thing. It's several thousand words. I mean, I'm rolling through it, and it is as long as anything you're going to read on Travis Kelce. And it's pretty good. But there's one part of this that I knew that Kelce was kicked off the team in college, right? He thought his football career was over. He wasn't some 5-star prospect. He was a decent prospect from Ohio, goes to Cincinnati, which is not a blue blood of college football. This is going back, 15 years, not when they were in the Big 12, which they are right now. And he got kicked off the team, as the article notes here, for smoking pot. So he lost everything. He thought his life was over. He lost his scholarship. He had to get a job. What did he do? Do you know this, Mark? I mean, you're as big a Travis Kelce fan as anybody. Do you know what Travis Kelce did for a job after he got kicked off the team for smoking pot in college?
I do not.
He was doing telemarketing, healthcare surveys over the phone to people in Ohio, Northern Kentucky, and Eastern Indiana.
That's right. I think I did hear him say that on the podcast once.
Oh, okay. And what was he asking them about? What they thought of Obamacare. Travis Kelce was surveying people for a telemarketing firm about Obamacare. And one quote that he used to say to a lot of people, he would say that he ran out of space in the comment box as people were chewing his ear off regarding what they thought about Obamacare. How about that? Travis Kelce cold calling people about Obamacare. But still, he's somehow turned into Mr. Pfizer all these years later, which I just don't understand it. The guy is talking to regular Americans in the Ohio Valley about Obamacare 15 years ago. And now he's, Mr. Bud Light, Mr. Pfizer. I don't get it, but I'll leave that, for now. I'm going to let that subside. One thing I will say, I saw this a lot on social media when I got home last night from the game. Travis, he's distracted. He'll fumble in the red zone. A couple of drops. Come on. You can't say Travis Kelce is over the hill after last night's game. Yeah, he had a fumble. That fumble is not because he was down at the Taylor Swift concert. It was just a fumble. Stop. People are always looking for reasons to try to blame Taylor Swift for something. He just fumbled the ball. It happens. I just saw this. Fox 4 had this story last night. A road rage incident on I-35 in Overland Park. And a manhunt's underway after a family tells police they were shot at as they headed north on I-35 over the weekend. So the family says it was rear-ended, and instead of pulling over, the driver started shooting at him. So took place near I-35 and 635 as the family from Lee Summit began to merge onto 635. And if I'm picturing that right, that's a tricky merge because it's in the left lane. So that part of 35 is so clunky because you got people in the left lane. They don't realize it's going to slow down to get onto 635. So they're zooming along. They don't understand that the 635 exit ramp is on the left. It's going to slow down, and it gets hairy around there.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay. I'm just making sure I'm envisioning that right in my head. Because I hate that part of the highway. Because it's like everyone's zooming in the left lane, and then it's, oh, wait, that's right, slowing down. 635's coming up. I don't know when it was developed, but it was poorly designed to have it on the left side like that. I know 71's also a left lane exit, but it just feels like that 635 left lane exit just is terrible. So anyway, this family from Lee Summit gets rear-ended by a red Audi sedan. As they pulled over and planned to exchange information, things took a scary turn, writes Fox 4, where suddenly the person in the red Audi started shooting a gun, and luckily no bullets hit the car. In the car, dad, 2 women, and a child. And, of course, this comes in the wake of what has been some other issues like this around the metro. Just a few months ago, road rage dispute in Oak Grove off I-70 led to the death of a 53-year-old man. So it just seems like these situations are happening more frequently, where you're having issues with road rage, with fender benders. We know that on top of that, fatalities on the road have increased dramatically since people started driving again post-COVID. And I don't know what it is. Like, I'd be curious on the text line or the phones at 913-408-7957 what you think the driver of it is, no pun intended. But many of you spend much more time on the road than I do. Like, I come here, I go home, I drag the kids around once in a while, but, we're not doing long road trips with a bunch of little kids. And thankfully, I've got a fairly easy commute when you're getting up at, 4 in the morning. I want to make it as short as possible. Luckily, we have that. So I'm not on the road a lot during rush hour. I'm not driving a ton with the kids on long road trips. So I'm not on the road nearly as much as many of you are. But I see the stories, obviously, and we talk about them here on KCMO, and I just can't quite figure out what's happening. Is it continued societal destruction because, people are lonelier than they've ever been? Relationship-wise, people are more likely to be single, lonely, and then they're taking it out, when they get into fender benders or road rage incidents or things like that. I don't know. I don't know if anyone's done any research on it, but it just feels like this stuff is happening more frequently than it ever has. I mean, we're talking about someone getting rear-ended, and it sounds like it was more of a love tap than it was a true, bad fender bender. And you pull over, fine, let's exchange information, and then suddenly you're getting shot at with, a kid in the back seat. Where the heck does that come from? And by the way, I mentioned this very early this morning. Something else that's picking up in popularity here is something called the bump and jack. And I know it's nothing new, but something that, I'm starting to see more of on social media, where what these people are doing, armed, masked, typically men, are tapping the back of cars at stoplights. And this is being done in places where there's not a lot of witnesses to potentially see what's going to happen. So then you get tapped at the back of a stoplight, you pull over, and you figure, hey, I'm going to inspect the damage, we're going to, exchange information, the whole thing. And instead what happens is multiple guys get out of the car that just love tapped you, and they're armed, and they steal your car. And that's happening a lot right now in Washington, D.C. There's been a lot of notifications about that. But and I know that it's got to be happening in other parts of the country as well. 913-408-7957. Jim's in Blue Springs. Jim, go ahead. You're on KCMO. What's up?
Just a truck driver out here. I listen to your show all the time, and I had an incident about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Didn't make a lot of sense other than I think the person's on the phone and they can't do two things at one time. I had a truck pulled out down there by Spring Hill, and I was backing off to let a car go by me. Then I'd slide behind the car and go on around the truck that's pulling out on the highway, And the car slowed down and left me hanging right there behind the big truck. The other vehicle, and there's no reason for it. And then once they slowed down about 45 and had my momentum broke, then they went on. And I don't understand why that happened, but I do realize they were probably on the phone or something, because whenever the phone's up in the air and you can see through the back window that's lit, they're on the phone.
That is a great point, Jim. And I feel like I'm seeing more people, as I just anecdotally drive around, with their phones in their hands as they're driving. Yeah.
And Missouri just enacted that law where you're not, but you're still hands-free. So what's the difference? You're still, your mind's on the what's going on the phone and not on what you're doing. And you just get a thought process. You need to slow down or something, but then you can't. Your mind won't clear itself.
Yeah. No, Jim.
You're busy on the second thing.
Good point. Thank you, Jim. I mean, I'm seeing a lot more of that, and he's seeing it as a truck driver. 913-408-7957. We're going to take a break, hit the top of the hour news, but come back with you on this conversation, because you got this road rage family gets shot at 35 over the weekend. You've got more incidents like this happening locally and around the country. We'll have some of that data as well and get to your calls coming up next on KCMO. A lot of good feedback here on the text line. 9:05 on a Tuesday post-Eagles loss morning on KCMO Talk Radio. Catch the damn ball, boys. Catch the damn ball. If I didn't love what I did, I'd be going to the Chiefs today and saying, I'll take number 11. I'll be MVS for you because I could have caught that damn ball last night right in his breadbasket in the end zone. Go ahead, touchdown, boop, dropped it.
I saw several old players on Twitter X last night, saying that they'd love to catch, like Deshaun.
Who is it?
The former Eagles wide receiver.
Oh, Jackson.
Deshaun Jackson, yeah. He said that he would love to go play for the Chiefs right now, come out of retirement. Jarvis Landry, I guess, was another one. So
wow.
There was a few players. They're, semi-recently retired.
Hey.
They could probably come out.
Take the flyer, man.
Yeah.
Can't get much worse. League leading 26 drop passes. Maybe that's one of the reasons road rage is on the rise in Kansas City. I'm kidding. It's been going on for a couple of years now. So here's the data, by the way. I'll give you the national data first. Last year, 43,000, let's just round it up. It's 42,939. 43,000 people in this country died in motor vehicle accidents. Now, that's a high number. That's the highest number we had seen since 2005. The numbers had been trending down into the low 30s, and then COVID hits, and for the last couple of years we've been up, and it looks like 2022 ended at about a similar number, and obviously we don't have 2023 yet. Now, for the state of Missouri, I've got those numbers here. Traffic fatalities in the state of Missouri. Last year we had 1,057. In 2019, we had 881. Think about that. We had 881 traffic fatalities in Missouri back in 2019. Last year, we had 1,057. So far this year, if I'm doing this right, let me see here. Is 948? Is that the number I'm looking at here? Either way, it's clearly a problem that is trending up, whether it's around the country or if it's here regionally. And I just found the state of Missouri because it was the first one I was able to find that popped up. So you're seeing it in Kansas City. We had this road rage incident. Thankfully, nobody was hurt in this over the weekend on I-35 and 635. But still, I mean, you got a fender bender that results in a guy taking out a gun. And that could have been tragic. That could have been fatal. So this conversation all weaves together. 913-408-7957. Carl's on KCMO. What's up, Carl?
Oh, good morning, Pete. It's more than just traffic. For the last 6 or 8 months, I have felt something in the back of my mind. You know, when you walk in a room and you feel something isn't right and you can't put your finger on it? That's what I've been feeling for 6 or 8 months, something in the background. In the last last month or so, I've noticed that traffic has just gotten crazy. People have run more red lights. I've seen people jumping medial strips, doing U-E's in the middle of the street. Look, we've got 2 shootings at malls. There's a couple of stabbings, one fatally here in Independence in the last few weeks. We've got shoplifters all over the country. I don't know what it is, but it's something. It's like we're all waiting for something to happen, and we don't know what it is.
Well, it's what I'm hearing, though, as you mention all those things, is a continuing disregard for the rule of law.
Exactly. Right on. Yes.
That's what they all have in common.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Well put.
Thank you. One more time there. Give me a big old yes there, Carl.
Yes. Yes. Well put. Well done, Pete.
Thank you.
As usual.
Thank you. Patting myself on the back for that one, Carl. But seriously, he's on to something. 913-408-7957. That's what all those things have in common. And it doesn't shock me that there's a downstream effect when it comes to the rule of law for people who, look around the world, look around the news cycle, and they're like, gosh, I mean, you got people getting away with murder on the streets. Not just in the region, but I mean around the country. You got people walking into department stores and walking out with whatever the heck they want. well, if I'm going to do an illegal UE here, I mean, we got criminals walking around scot-free, so if I do a UE, I'm not supposed to do it? Yeah, sure. Same thing with expired tags. I mean, I saw an expired tag that was 18 months old this week. Guys going around with temp tags that expired in May of 22. You want to talk about just not caring at all about the rule of law. That's it. That's just another example. So that's the common thread as we come to that conclusion here on KCMO. Disregard for the rule of law, whether it's hardened criminals or even those of us who are like, yeah, I'll sneak through this yellow light. I'll do that UE here when I'm not supposed to. It's minor, but it's natural. I'm going to, I know I'm not supposed to pick up this text message on my phone while I'm driving down I-435, but, it's my wife, it's my husband. I'm going to do it anyway. And all this stuff does work together. And that's what kind of we've lived through the last 3 years, it feels like, right? An age of chaos in many respects. Or, by the way, you want to go out there and you want to protest things that people agree with? Oh, please, have a field day. Peaceful protest as you burn down a police precinct. But if you don't wear your mask, you're going to prison. I mean, I say that tongue-in-cheek, but you get the point. That's what we lived through the last 3 years. Peaceful protests on behalf of George Floyd, have a field day. Rob what you want. Oh, you didn't wear your mask in Home Depot? Oh, but throw them to the wolves. And now that has permeated itself in other parts of our society. I can't say that surprises me by any stretch of the imagination. On the text line, 913-4087-957. That's now the new studio line and the text line. Some of you are still, I can tell because I look at both lines. Some people are still texting the old line, and we don't check it. There's my tirade Tuesday. Stop texting the old number. And I'm not going to give it out because I don't want to confuse anybody, Mark. But stop texting the old number. I appreciate you guys reaching out to the show, but it's never going to get on the air. No one's going to read it. You got to text the new number. You got to call and text the new number. The old number is not something we use anymore. So if you're still doing that, I love you. I appreciate you being here as a part of the show, but you're just wasting your thumb energy is all you're doing. So give it a rest.
Make the transition over.
913-408-7957. That's the new number here on KCMO Talk Radio. Pete, part of the problem is no one's taking driving classes anymore. I mean, is that true? I don't know. My kids aren't old enough for that. I mean, I don't know. I remember learning how to parallel park during my driving class. Do you remember that, Mark? Did you guys do a little parallel parking to pass your driving classes or no?
Yeah, I remember doing that. I didn't do it through the school. I did it through another thing.
Oh, you did it through okay.
Yeah.
But you did it.
Yeah.
I was parallel parking the other day. I was like, gosh, I haven't done this in a long time. But back when I was working at Fox and CBS in New York, think about this. I would give myself 45 minutes to find parking. That's how bad it was. 45 minutes. Because I would drive in because I worked off hours. I'd work like 4 to midnight, midnight to 6, whatever it might be. And I want to find street parking because if I did garage parking, it was going to cost me anywhere from $25 to $40. So I didn't want to be out $25 to $40 before I got into work. So if my shift started at 4 p.m., I'd try to get there between 3 and 3:15 and then just kind of loop around various blocks in New York City looking for street parking and then try to parallel park my car in the places where I was like, gosh, I'm really cutting this thing close. But, a little bump here and there never hurt anybody. But that's the kind of, disaster that I used to have to deal with. So I was a pro at parallel parking at one point. And then the other day I got a parallel park here and I probably had an extra 3-4 feet on either side. And I'm like, whoa, this is a little tight. Oh, my goodness. What am I going to do? This is awfully tight. It's like, gosh, I've become such a wimp on parallel parking. It's unbelievable.